Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome one, welcome all to another review from your film Exiles. And this one is going to be on a television series. It just recently concluded about a couple weeks ago. We were able to watch the whole thing, and we're going to tell you about The Outsider. So joining me today is Brandon. Brandon, welcome to this review. Say hello to the people.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Nice. So, well, you know, we're shooting this review during the time of the quarantine for the pandemic, and we've been binge watching a lot of stuff. So you're going to see a lot of content on our channel. So be sure to go over there if you're wondering what to watch. If you're curious about anything, we're going to be pumping out a lot of reviews on TV series, on movies that can entertain you during this time. So support the channel by, clicking on those reviews, engaging us in conversation, and we'll be your companion for this time of self-exile. So The Outsider, first off, gotta say, it's a Stephen King novel adaptation. And this is like Stephen King just has his moment right now. There's so many adaptations. We've seen stuff from his horror over, his supernatural over, and it's all over the place in cinemas, with it, on TV as well. So this one is on HBO. It has 10 episodes, and each one of them is about 50, 55 minutes, 57 minutes long. And it stars Ben Mendelsohn as Detective Ralph. It stars Cynthia Revo as Holly Gibney. It stars Bill Camp as a lawyer, Howard Solomon. It stars Jeremy Bobb as Alec Paley, and it stars Jason Bateman as Terry Maitland. So first off, Brandon, how did you discover this show, and what inspired you to watch it?
Well, it's obviously, yeah, I've got plenty of extra free time right now, and I've been a big fan of Jason Bateman, so I remember the trailer for it a few months ago, and after seeing the 2 seasons of Ozark at that point and 3 now, I was just kind of hooked at that moment. I was like, well, this is something I'm going to need to watch. It looks fantastic.
Absolutely.
And then as time went on, I didn't start watching it from the beginning. I waited until it was all over. But my dad told me that it was really great, and then one of my best friends told me that it was really great. And then the time arose, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. I had finished Ozark season 3 just a couple of days before, and again was kind of still just in the mood. So just dove all in. I watched the entire series in one day.
Nice. Wow. I can say about the same thing for me. The trailer was really intriguing. I love the way it was like moody. It was well shot. It was quite artistic. It has really good actors in it. Ben Mendelsohn is a phenomenal actor. I've enjoyed like all his performances. He's really good at portraying like these sort of damaged men who have a lot of internal turmoil and grief and angst and pain. And of course, Jason Bateman. This is a guy who started out doing comedies, and he's really good at comedies. Don't get it twisted. He's phenomenal at that. But then he made this switch to more serious stuff. And the first was Ozark, and he's taken to it like a fish in water.
He's kind of like Jordan Peele right now, where came from that heavy humor and then just kind of nailed it with the horror thriller genre.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so surprising because even when I look at someone like Jim Carrey, who has done like more serious stuff, or Will Ferrell or any of these big comedians, whenever they attempt serious stuff, there's still an element of that light-hearted side. They're never really able to get into like the darkness and the thrilling aspect of the stuff they get into. But Jason Bateman, it's you would never have guessed that he's a comedian. And what's amazing in this series also is that he directs a couple of episodes, and actually the episodes that he directs in terms of stylistically, what's going on with the camera movements, with the editing, with the sound design, with the cinematography, they're some of the best ones, and you can definitely see that a master craftsman is behind the camera. So yeah, watching this was definitely something I was looking forward to. I don't watch series episodically. It's something that I don't do ever since I started binging with the Netflix model. That's what I do for every series. I wait until it's over, then I binge all of it. So I can't speak as to how the series flows if you're watching it episodically, but in the binge fashion that I watched it, it worked very well. How did you find binging it in one entire day? How was that experience?
I mean, it was a long day, but that was again kind of my favorite way of watching it. Is it's almost just a movie that takes up your whole day.
Absolutely.
And everything was so well plotted out. It
Mhm.
did start to drag a little bit in the last third of the season, and then picked up at the very end,
Yeah.
and just knocked it out of the park. So it's the first few episodes were just incredibly atmospheric, and really drew you in, and then the emotional drama kept on going throughout the season. And like I said, just kind of slowed down, kind of got a little bit repetitive, a touch in the middle, and then just sealed it up. And there was absolutely, I mean, nothing that I would have really taken out. It might have played a little bit different on a week to week basis, but yeah, all in one day, loved it.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, I didn't really find that anything dragged, honestly. I I felt like it flowed really well from episode to episode, as you said, feeling like one expansive, epic movie. Also, this is a mystery thriller series, and I felt like they did a good job of dropping breadcrumbs and different clues and different doors were opened to the point where you just kept on. You don't wanted to know what was around the corner. All right, what's going on there? What's around the next corner and the next bend, and all the way until the end. It was just like it was really well paced. It was really well written. In terms of the flow, there's something very interesting that happens with the series. Like it first starts with a particular style, and you really sink in and become accustomed to this style of storytelling, and you think you know what it's about. And then I think in about episode, it's either 3 or 4, it takes a hard left. It goes from a particular type of storytelling, and I don't want to spoil it, but this is not a spoil. If you know Stephen King's material, then you know that he deals with supernatural stuff. So also I'll describe the series like True Detective meets Supernatural. Okay, it has the prestige, moody, slow burn, uh, thrilling type of style, like True Detective, great dialogue, great acting, all that stuff. But then, with Supernatural, where you're having like a couple of people like investigating some sort of supernatural thing that's happening. So it's kind of like a mishmash of those two elements, and it just works perfectly. But as I was saying, the first part feels very much like True Detective. Like you're going to a standard detective procedural. They're investigating a homicide or a string of homicides or a serial killer or a crime, and then it takes a hard left, and it just it just turns into something where the supernatural element becomes prominent. You're no longer trying to figure out whether there's a supernatural element, and that was hard to adjust to at first, but I thought it was a pleasant kind of, it was like a shock to the system, but a pleasant one. How did you find that juncture in the series? I think it's a point where we meet a character called Holly.
Yeah, so there's There's almost kind of three different feelings for me in this. The first two uh, the first two parts of the series are very Finchery to me. The first one being more a little bit like Zodiac, where
Mm-hmm.
you've got your standard your killer serial killer theory mystery going on. There's something else going on, but it never touches the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of hit the middle and you meet Holly and you kind of get that girl with the dragon tattoo investigation, fast paced unraveling of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last third was just like a really good sealing of X-Files for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I've never watched
X-Files and stuff
Supernatural,
also came to mind. Yeah.
but yeah, this felt like a really really good arc for X-Files, just a lot higher production quality and much darker because it could be since it's HBO.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there really are three distinct kind of styles to the season, split into three different ways, and it actually surprisingly works really well.
Yeah.
And all that stuff with Holly was actually really really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good segue for us to go to. Tell me what you thought about the different actors and characters, their performances, what they brought to the proceedings. Tell us your favorite characters and your least favorite characters. So we have, Jason Bateman plays Terry Maitland, who is the guy who's accused of a heinous crime. Then we have his wife, who's played by Julianne Nicholson, Glory Maitland. We have Ben Mendelsohn, who's the lead detective. We have Cynthia Revo, who's Holly. We have Bill Camp, who's Howard Salomon. And then we have Jeremy Bobb, who's Alec Pelly or Peely. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
So, I mean, Bateman has always been a really good everyman, even when in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like Jim Carrey where he's a character actor. He never becomes Ace Ventura or anything. He's always just been a really funny everyman.
Mm-hmm.
And that transitions well kind of into the thriller segment. He still seems very relatable. And for his chunk of it, he does a really, really good job. Because you don't know what's going on. You see evidence and you're supposed to think that it's him, but he does a really, really good job of differentiating his performances to make you think that there's something else going on. So, I mean, he's great. Mendelsohn is great, and it's always interesting because he's generally a villain. So it's weird seeing him as not necessarily the hero, but as the good guy. Holly she's fantastic as somebody who's got the really higher mental capacity, who thinks completely different, and she sells it in such a great way. So I mean, her role was fantastic. The one that I was always really every time I saw him on screen was really crazy was Paddy Constantine.
Who's that character again?
So he's the one that ran the strip club.
Oh yes. He actually did a good job.
He's great, but he's from Hot Fuzz and he's from Born Ultimatum. He's goofy normally, so seeing him, I mean, he's very British, and then you see him in this, and he's got the Southern accent, and he never breaks out of it. He's really great in it, but it's just really funny because every time I see him, I see Hot Fuzz.
I'd never have guessed he was British. I had no idea.
Yeah, he's. Have you seen Hot Fuzz? Right.
A long time ago, I have, yes, but I only remembered the main character.
He's one of the two detectives called the Andes, and he's got a big old mustache, and he's kind of a prick, but yeah, he's very British. He's friends with Edgar Wright, so he pops up in all those kinds of movies, and it's really funny. But yeah, he just plays a Southern American in this, and it's just really interesting just seeing him without his British accent. So that there, but yeah, as far as favorites go, I've probably got to give it to Holly and Ben Mendelsohn's character.
Yeah,
they were both really excellent.
Well, I mean, for me, I got to tell you guys, like the acting across the board is top notch. Like these are not like regular actors. These guys are at the top of their game. We're talking about people who act in like the best movies. You're not getting, second-rate performances. Nobody's like a weak link or undersells or doesn't come to play. Like these guys, they all came to play and they brought their A game. But Cynthia Revo, and Ben Mendelsohn, and also Marc Menchaca, that's his name. They had very difficult roles to play. Now, Ben Mendelsohn had a difficult role to play because they say he's a good guy, but here he's a guy who's tortured by grief, by mistakes. He's a guy who's not sure about what's going on. So there's a lot of internal turmoil that he has to relay through his acting, and he can't do it in an over the top way. It's a lot of very subtle, like face acting, body language, and it emanates powerfully from him. He did an amazing job. And then Cynthia Revo, she's playing this character who seems to be on the autistic scale. She doesn't relate to people socially very well, but in terms of intelligence, intellect, and also a bit of a there's a hint of psychological and supernatural ability. She is like elite, she's like someone whose brain just vibrates at a higher frequency than anyone else, to a level that's superhuman. And she does so well in the role, so well, because she plays it with such nuance, to the point where she doesn't relay the character as a caricature or some sort of weird person, but you are still able to empathize with the fact that she doesn't relate to people very well, and that's something that she struggles with, but she wants to, and she's conflicted about it. It's just like she did a really good job, and I got to give Cynthia Revo like a lot of credit. She gets a lot of buzz in her movie roles. Like, she had a bit of Oscar buzz for the Harriet Tubman role she played, and she was also really good she was in that movie that had Chris Helmsworth in it, Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yeah, Bad Times at El Royale.
And she's a star. She's a star. She's really good. Also, I mentioned Marc Menchaca, who plays a cop called Jack Hoskins, and he goes through. He's dragged over concrete, through the mud, under horse, not literally, figuratively. He goes through a very tortured time physically, and he does a very good job portraying someone whose soul is being tortured, and physically as well is being tortured, like literally. So yeah, those acting performances were really good. So to wrap things up, how would you compare this to other series? Would you recommend it? And what are the highlights of it and the lowlights for you?
I mean, absolutely would highly recommend it. Anybody that really likes that dark mystery thriller with that little supernatural twist in it is definitely gonna like this. There really weren't any lows. I mean, it really kept me captivated all the way through. I'm curious on if and how they'll do a second season, if they'll continue this story, or if they'll do it anthology style and do a completely different story. But yeah, I mean, I'm sold on a second season for sure. So yeah, absolutely recommend. As far as the highs go, I mean, it's just everything. It was just I was thoroughly impressed, and enough to watch it all in one day, and and be completely happy with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, same. I'm gonna echo your sentiments. I can't really think of any low lights apart from that. If you're not a fan of these sort of like dark, mystery thrillers that border on the horror genre, and on like there some disturbing supernatural elements to it, then you won't like it. So it's not something for kids. It's not like a family friendly production. No, it's very mature. It's very dark. It's quite disturbing at times. It's very atmospheric, but this is like when you talk of peak television, peak TV, prestige TV. This is it. Like, this is what HBO was made to do, and this shows that they're still king. I really hope that when HBO Max streaming service comes to play, that it doesn't water down HBO's prestige content. I hope that it only adds to it and that they continue. And as I said, the way I describe it, elevator pitch is very simple. True Detective meets Supernatural, or Mindhunter meets Supernatural, or Mindhunter meets X-Files, or True Detective meets X-Files, that kind of thing. It has those two elements to it. And yeah, so you guys, if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. It's one of the best series out there right now. It's available for you to binge every episode. I'm looking forward to a second season if they do anything. And that's our review for The Outsider. So, Brandon, thanks for joining us today. Where can people find you on social media if they want to discuss The Outsider a bit more with you?
You can find me on Twitter at the_meatball_84.
Nice. And is there anything that you're working on for the film Exiles that you'd like to plug for us to look forward to?
Yeah, we're in the middle of Clone Wars going on right now, so we're 8 episodes in on that. All those are available on our YouTube channel. And we're going into probably the biggest 4 episodes, maybe, of the whole series. So, if you're following Clone Wars too, come chat with us.
Nice. And I have been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter and on Vero at Live Love Lupe. Every week, we post ENN podcast episodes, and that's just our podcast where we discuss the most interesting news topics in the world of movies and TV and streaming and, audiovisual entertainment. So if you need something to be your companion during this time of exile, tune in, chat with us, we chat back. And till next time, stay exiled.